Okay, so everybody has answered this question. And somebody, wait, let's get my cursor here. I'm going to pause this question. I am going to ask another one, so if you're coming in just now, I didn't want to do that. What I wanted to do was this. Okay, so most of you think that A is the best answer, and some of you think C is the best answer. So those of you who said C, or those of you who said A, why didn't you pick C? What's wrong with C, those of you who answered A? What's wrong with it?
I think A because it said in the future.
You didn't say it because it say it. What?
Because the alleles change within an individual, not population.
Okay.
Time.
So this is why you picked this one, because it's useful in the future. Those of you who said alters the frequency of alleles within a population. Those of you who said C, what's wrong with A?
It doesn't necessarily
necessarily useful in the future.
There we go. That's the problem with answer A. Okay, it doesn't select for necessarily useful, because what's useful now may not be useful in the future, right? How does it know what's going to be useful in the future? Natural selection is not. Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't think about it. So it certainly doesn't trigger mutations. And can you alter the frequency of alleles within an individual? No, so that one doesn't work. So our best answer here is C, okay? So if you answered A, then let's go back and think about, again, remember that natural selection can only act on existing variability. It already has to be, the trait already has to be there. And it can't think in the future, okay? For the most part, it's just another tool. What it lets me do is harvest answers from students that wouldn't normally answer a question in class. And we've all had that experience where you ask a whole class question and you've got 3 or 4 students that are the only voices that you hear. And the students who are not answering either think that they don't know the answer, or that they are too shy to speak up. And so this way I can see what the whole class's understanding of the question is, and not just 1 or 2 or 3 students, and give me this false sense of security that everybody knows this because I'm hearing the answers I want to hear. This way I say, oh wow, yes, those 4 people know this, but the rest of the class is lost. And so I can go back and adjust and reteach where I need to reteach. And then if everybody has a concept, I don't just keep hammering away at something they've all already gotten. So it helps me to identify misconceptions and teach, do those just-in-time teaching things to where you say, okay, I need to go back and adjust their understanding of this, or go back and cover this again, or give a different example because they're clearly lost. If there are questions that students are repeatedly missing, I might add another component, or another module, or another lesson, or homework activity, or other active learning thing to try to bring their understanding up. I've actually changed a couple of things where I've emphasized things differently based on the feedback that I get from students. And in other ways, if it's something that they're pretty much getting in high school and across the board, almost everybody has that concept, I might not emphasize it as much if I'm not going to spend class time with something that they already have down. So you can use it as a pretest where you can do a really quick where are they before you start a lesson, and then emphasize the areas where they're weak and maybe not emphasize as much the areas where they already seem to have the concept down. So that's the best ways of using data. I do use I mean, of course, for points, we do, give them credit for it since they have to pay for the service. I want them to feel like they're getting their money's worth out of it. So I do assign a good chunk of points. About 4% of their overall course grade comes from Top Hat right now, and I may increase that a little bit as I keep adding more questions and more activities to it.
And so do you also use Top Hat for attendance?
I do use Top Hat for attendance. So there's two ways you can do it. You can either, as they come in, you can have the attendance, it has a separate question where you can just have attendance, where they come in and they have to enter a code to say that they're there, or which is, if I know I'm going to be asking a Top Hat question sometime during the class, I just take attendance from that. If they answered the question, they were there. If they don't answer the question, they weren't there, because I can see it time and date stamps the question. When every time you ask a question, you get a time and date stamp. So I can use that as well for attendance. I try not to take up time just doing attendance though. So. I would suggest that they go watch somebody else do it, not just one day, but over several days, and see the different mechanisms. Look at more than one teacher and see how different instructors use it. Within our department, some of the faculty embed Top Hat, their PowerPoint presentations into the Top Hat system, and they run their entire presentation from within Top Hat, which is a little more seamless than the way I do it, but I like being able to flip back and forth and have a, sometimes there's glitchiness a little bit with the PowerPoint embedded in the into the Top Hat thing if you're running a lot of videos and that kind of thing. But just watching how different people use it, I certainly don't have the corner on the market of the best strategies. I've been using clickers in the classroom for, I think I said, since 2005, which was the first year that I did it. So I've been doing it for a long time, and do what you're comfortable with. Start at the beginning of the semester. Don't introduce it partway through. They will hate you. So start at the beginning and give yourself a semester to, as you're teaching your class, think about ways that you could incorporate the questions and embed them to where it's not an add-on, it's truly a part of the class. So when you get that new batch of kids and you're doing it from the first and it looks like you've been doing it for years, they don't know the difference. As far as they know, you've been doing this forever. So that would be my best thing. And take advantage of the tutorials and the expertise of the Top Hat folks. Their customer service is actually pretty good, and they will do a lot of the things for you. Just ask.